Hi there, Dolly Friends. I'm so happy that you're here today. I'm excited to show you what I have this week. I was online and I saw a photograph of some vintage kitchen tools, so I decided to make one of my own. These are my kitchen tools, and I put a ruler in there so I could use it as a gauge for making some minis. Now, please know if this is your first time here that this is not a tutorial. This is what I think of as little slice of life minis, and I like to just take out some things I have and see if I can make anything. I'm still a little bit amazed when I can make anything. Anyway, so I took out my floral wire and I'm bending it around the arm of this tool here. I think I'd like to try to make that pastry cutter. My muse told me to use this jewelry glue, so that's what I'm going to do. I just cut off the end of this toothpick, which has some detail, and colored it in with a Sharpie, and I remembered I had this little mini vise, and so I thought I would hold it there. Well, I'll be if it isn't as fiddly as a wild banjo string. I know you are all well aware of the fiddly nature of miniatures. No matter what I did, I couldn't get this one to fit on. I tried to keep them organized, but it was very hard to see. So get out your good glasses if you do a project like this. I ended up putting this wire on the other side. Initially, I wanted to put 5 wires because that's what's on my cutter. But I soon realized that wasn't going to be possible, but 3 wasn't enough, so I'm going to do 4, I think. I got them all on, and then I remember this little box I found at an estate sale. I'm going to use these little pieces here, but I'm going to use the dull reverse side, not the shiny jewel side, but it's just the exact diameter that I need. So I'll put one of those on each end. I just have some of that jewelry glue in a little lid, and I'm gathering it with my toothpick. I left it alone while I figured out how I was going to do the other tools, and here's how it is. I purposefully left the handle a little bit long just to have it raised a little bit in the vise. I would recommend actually leaving the whole toothpick together until you've done everything you're going to do and then do the coloring. So I'm going to cut it just a little bit. I didn't really measure and gauge. I knew everything should be less than an inch, but that's about all I did. So I just cut, just using my eye. It looks and sounds a bit dramatic, but I didn't hurt myself. I was just surprised at how it snapped. The clipper I used to cut it flattens it out, so I'm just using these other pliers to press it into a more round position again. And I'm coloring in the end with my Sharpie, and I'm going to glue the other ends on. Now, as much as I tried to keep the wires straight and in order, I did end up getting them twisted. It's not so noticeable, and wires on a real one sometimes get twisted. But if I did it again, I would pay more attention to that. I think I didn't have my good glasses on. While that was drying, I was trying to figure out how I could make the potato masher. I thought if I just wrapped it around something and then flattened it, it would work, but it didn't really work that way. The wire is so soft that it just easily gets distorted. So I did finally get it. I, found something that kind of worked. What I did was I started it out by bending an end around my pliers. These are just round nose pliers. And then I held it down and then just did a back and forth and then kind of squeezed it together. The softer wires that I'm using are not really ideal. They do end up getting a little misshapen the more I'm handling them. But stronger wires would be harder to bend. I'm just using what I have at home. But I have this handle here, and I just want to kind of see how I'm going to do it. I'll shorten the tool itself before adding it to the handle. And I think I'm going to make some green handles because that would be more a color you would see often. So I was going on to try to make my whisk, and I wrapped some floral wire around the end of my tool here, but because the shape of the tool is tapered, it's uneven, and I didn't really like the way that turned out. And then I found this spring in my box of scraps, but I didn't really like the way that looked either, even though it was very uniform. So what I ended up doing was I wrapped the wire around a darning needle, and then I just tried to make it as dense as I could. And really, if you make these, you can make them as dense or loose as you want to, because if you look at vintage whisks, they're of varying sizes and densities. But I wanted mine to have a certain look. And then just leave the wires long on either side, and that will help you secure it. After I slide it off, I'm actually going to try to tie these end pieces into a knot. It's a little bit fiddly, and I'll probably come off camera, but I'm going to show you what I'm doing. It actually comes off pretty easily, and then I'm just bending the ends around. And I'm giving it a twist, and you can see I've looped one end through, but I'll sort that off camera. And then I just twisted the ends together because I'll be cutting it anyway. So I'm taking my toothpicks and I'm going to make them that 1930s jadeite green. So I have some jadeite colors here, and I'm going to mix them together. I don't know why I'm mixing them together. I just like to do things like that. First, I'm putting a little, using a little stain pen to color the ends of the toothpicks, just because I'm only going to do one coat of the paint. If some of it comes through, I don't want it to look like a new light colored toothpick. I really didn't need to mix the lighter color in. I could have just used that darker green right out of the bottle. It's fine. I think maybe two in those little grooves on the toothpicks. I'll paint some black stripes. You've seen utensils that have those black stripes. So I've cut the ends of my pieces here, and I decided to fold some foil in half and cut the little end of a spatula. I'll probably open those slats a little more too. And I sandwiched the ends. I've sandwiched the wire in the end, so it's actually between the two pieces there. And that one's not going to have a wooden handle. So I'm looking at my masher here and realizing it's not going to fit in the end here, but I think my whisk will. I decided to I tried using a needle and I just split the wood. So I'm using my little, I call it a pin drill, and just doing enough to keep that securely in there. You have to be really careful, but the good thing is I have plenty of toothpicks. So that worked out good, and I'm just going to put some of that jewelry glue, which is really just like a super glue gel, so that would also work, or whatever kind of glue you want to use. You can see I already painted the black on the end of this handle. I like the way that looks. I'm really happy with the little whisk. I couldn't get the masher to fit on the end even when I drilled the hole, so I'm putting some of the glue on the outside here, and I'm just going to put the ends on the outside. See what I did there. Sorry, I'm a little bit out of the frame. And I'll just let that dry, but you can see how it's getting misshapen the more I handle it. I'll probably have to make these again to make them look a little less sloppy. Now that I have an approach, I can probably get through it without handling them so much. But this is kind of how I roll. I just take out my stuff and get cracking and just developing the skills as I go along. So I'm mixing this zinc paint with some glue. This is just white glue. And I'm going to paint the metal parts so they're not so shiny. This color is the perfect color to get the look that I'm going for. And sorry that it's so blurry. My camera just didn't know what to focus on. And like I mentioned, I am going to open up those slats a little bit. So there's my little spatula. And then I've painted all the little coils here. You can see at the top of the wood where my thumb is, where it's still a little bit shiny there, so you can kind of see the difference. And I think it looks just right. I'm really happy with it. I don't want them to look too old because the period of my house is in the mid-1930s, so they really wouldn't be that old. But as we know, kitchen tools start to wear and they get wet and paint peels off. So here's the little peeler, and I put some zinc paint around the ends where the glue was holding my little caps together too. Well, wouldn't you know, after I put all my supplies away, I decided I needed a wooden spoon. I took out a stick that I had and shaved off the end with my X-Acto knife and added a bowl with some air dry clay. I know I did a pretty poor job. This is all I did. It's just a stick I found outside, and I just shaved off the bark. This was a clean stick that I had in my stash. And then I just sanded it a little bit with my files to get the shape I wanted, and I tried to form the bowl out of some air dry clay. It was harder than I expected. I experimented with using a stain pen to color it, and I think it's going to be satisfactory. And wooden spoons, of course, come in all sorts of colors. I think it definitely looks like a wooden spoon, right?
Well, kinda, I guess.
I added a very, very light coat of matte Mod Podge to all my tools, to the handles, and yeah, just to give it a little extra protection. Looks like Beatrice is going to do some baking now. I'm so grateful for all of you that have stopped by to watch the video. I hope you'll consider subscribing if you're not already. It's an easy, free way to follow the escapades of the dolls. I'd love for you to leave a comment and let me know about your doll's house kitchen. Is it set in a particular time period like mine is, or is it contemporary? I'd love to hear all about what your dolls are getting up to in the kitchen this summer. Whatever doll's house adventures you're having, I hope you'll remember to come back and visit me next time in the doll cupboard.